Happy Monday morning, everybody. We're going to run through our L10 projections. A couple teams that are kind of interesting heading into this week. Charlotte with their new players just starting to play. We only have one game of data, but we're kind of going to have to go off of that because these are going to be some of your better plays this week, I think. In Miami, Jimmy Butler's taking a leave. He had a death in the family, so I don't think he plays at all until after the All-Star break. And they had Terry Rozier go down with a knee injury yesterday, and that looked pretty bad. Josh Richardson maybe separated his shoulder. He had to leave the game. So they're going to be a little thin. I think you're going to see some big minutes from some of the guys in Miami, so we'll go over some of those guys who I think are your best plays. Let's get to it. All right, starting with those micro caps, we have Justin Holiday in Denver, averaging 30 minutes a night. Condavious Caldwell-Pope has missed the last two games. Also, Michael Porter missed the last game. Holiday ended up playing 37 minutes in a blowout loss to the Kings. I don't expect this to continue. Either one or both of those guys could be back today, and then Holiday could just go completely back to the bench. They do play tonight, so if you get news that both of these guys are still out, I think you can throw Holiday in there at a 4. If either one of them are back, I would be very careful with him. And then we get into our Charlotte guys. Our first one is Micic. He is a 4 L10, played 26 minutes in his Charlotte debut, so that's what we're going to work off of. 0.63 a minute, not real productive, but at 26 minutes, he still can get you low 20s probably for a high-end upside, and he actually had a better game than that in his debut. He put up 29, high-end outlier. Maybe with some time, this guy improves. I'd use him with confidence this week. Troy Brown Jr. was traded from Minnesota to Detroit. 19 minutes in his Detroit debut, 0.77 a minute for Brown, a little under 23, 2 games in Detroit this weekend. And Davis Bertans is also in Charlotte now. He played 12 minutes in his debut, 1.04 a minute. That's his season Sorare points per minute average, and that's really good. We'll see how many minutes he gets. I don't love him, but at 18.7, I think you could certainly play him on a 4L10. Seth Curry in Charlotte, this is a homecoming for him. He grew up in the Charlotte area. Dad calls the games on TV. 20 minutes in his debut. I actually really like him. He had a bad game, but I think he's capable of bigger things. Good shooter. 5L10, low to mid-20s in the high-end estimate range, and a couple games for Charlotte this week. I think he's definitely going to be in there, and I would have him in if Trey Mann went to Charlotte. 0.87 a minute. This is one of your more productive guys. He loves to shoot it. 9L10. I think they're going to give him a long leash and just let him go. He would be a top play for me this week. 25 for a difference between that top end 34.4 and his L10 of 9. Yeah, get him in if you've got one. Christian Braun in Denver. Minutes over the last 3 are 23 on average. That's pretty high for him. This is another one that's kind of tied into the injuries to Caldwell-Pope and to Michael Porter Jr. Both of them are back. I'd put him more in that 15 to 17 range, and if we give him 17, obviously that knocks him down to about 22.5, so not nearly as good a play, but still in play. Jeff Green in Houston is kind of the fill-in for Şengün. Thought we might see some Jock Landale, but they went with the smaller Green playing the 5 position. He's a 9 right now. He's been getting big minutes, but if Şengün comes back, I expect him to go back to his normal role, which is kind of 10 to 15 minutes. With 23 minutes, he can get you around 22 points for high-end upside, sometimes a little higher than that. He's had a couple of nice games. Malachi Brannon's been getting some more minutes in San Antonio since the Doug McDermott trade. He's up to about 19 average over the last 3. So keep an eye on him. 21.5 for a high-end upside for a 9 is not bad. And it was really disappointing over the weekend that Washington wasn't able to get Umiori in the game a little more. I was hoping he'd get in the 20s for minutes and give us some big-time production. He got 13 and then 8. I'm putting him for 11 minutes right now. That's about what he's been playing. And even at 11 minutes, this guy's production level, it's fallen a little bit, but it's still good enough. I know he didn't do it over the weekend, but don't be surprised if he throws out a 25 or 30 here this week. 2 games for Washington. Prices on this microcap tier. Justin Holiday, the cheapest at 167. Branham actually still pretty cheap at 228. He's a decent ad, I think. I think Curry's a good deal at $278 right now. Micic up to $13 and Trey Mann up to $7, so you have to pay up for those guys if you want them. My preference would be Mann. A lot of interesting mid-caps this week. Duncan Robinson in Miami at a 12. If all 3 of those guys that we talked about in the intro are out, his minutes could be in the mid-30s, and that puts him in that low 40s range. We've seen higher outcomes for him over the course of the year already. 12 is just way too low. Big difference between the high-end estimate and the 12 L10. He's absolutely in play. Haywood Highsmith, I ran over a guy with his car. It was an accident, I guess, but the guy lost his leg. Terrible story. He was out a couple games dealing with the aftermath of that, but he's back. Played 23 minutes last night. I think 25 is kind of a low-end estimate on his minutes. He could play more than this. If he gets 25, that puts his high end right around 30, and for a 12, that's definitely in play. Jalen Smith in Indiana is ruled out today already. Isaiah Jackson fills in when he is gone at the backup center. Last game without Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson played 17 minutes. That's what I put him at. That gives him a high end of over 31, and for a 12, that's in play. Grant Williams was traded from Dallas to Charlotte. 32 minutes in his Charlotte debut. Top end for him around 34. At a 13, you can certainly play him. Kevin Love in Miami. Again, they have lots of injuries. I kept his minutes right where they are. They didn't play him more last game once those guys got hurt, so I think he's still in that 16 range. I guess he could get a couple more minutes. Even in the 16 range, he's so productive at 1.2 a minute that he's a 29. So for a 14, you can certainly play him this week. Might even get some higher end upside if he gets some more minutes. Campaign in Philadelphia. The Sixers just signed Kyle Lowry as a buyout guy. Campaign's time of being the fill-in star is probably over. He had one huge game. Minutes came way down the next night with Tyrese Maxey back. Now with Lowry coming in, I've lowered him all the way down to 15. I would be careful with him. I think he's going to be a popular play, but probably not a great one this week. I've been wrong before. Reggie Jackson in Denver. We had Julian Strawther come back after a long injury absence. Reggie's minutes came down even with KCP and Porter out, so I'd be a little careful with him. I think if Strawther works in, we may see Jackson's minutes dip a little bit here. Top end with 21 minutes, give him about 30, which is playable on a 16, but again, not sure he gets those minutes, and if the other two guys come back, then we may see his minutes really drop into the mid-teens again, so we'll see what happens. Jay Crowder in Milwaukee. 17. He's been getting big minutes. 35 for a top end if he gets those 36 minutes. I don't expect him to continue to get 36 minutes, though. I put him more mid-20s when everybody's healthy, so we'll see. 3 games, though, for Milwaukee, so they're going to need him. If you have a Crowder, I think you can certainly play him. Lou Dort, only 1 game this week. He's in 18. He's been getting nice minutes and playing pretty well. 31 is my estimate for him. Top end of 34. So, I mean, I don't love this. There are other guys. 2 more Miami guys come in at 19s. Caleb Martin and Jaime Jaquez. Jaquez is pretty expensive. Caleb Martin, not so much. I think Martin actually has a chance to get more minutes and score you some more points, purely based on Rozier, Josh Richardson, and Butler all being out. This is the same position Martin plays, and he's played big minutes in relief before. I think he's in there, and he's capable of big things. Nice play this week. Kelly Olynyk. First game with Toronto, he played 22 minutes, put up about a 30. I'd say his high end is just over that, low 30s. 1.03 a minute, really productive. So we'll see how he mixes with his new team, but looks like he fit right in the first game. And then at 20, we have Rui Hachimura. He's playing big minutes in LA, 38 for a top end, 38.7 on a 20. Certainly in play for him. And with this many minutes, you never know, he could go for more than that. 2 games for LA this week. And looking at some prices on this group, Kevin Love really low, 228 for a 14. I like Jackson here. Haywood Highsmith, still really cheap, $285. Could probably grab a couple of these guys and put together a pretty nice lineup for under $10. Firing through the upper end of the mid caps, we're going to start at 21 with Buddy Hield. Played 2 games in Philadelphia, averaging 38 minutes a night. That puts his top end around 44, and as a 21, that's really good. Put him in if you have one. Simone, traded to Detroit, 32 minutes in his debut, puts him around 36. For a 21, still pretty good. Jabari Walker in Portland's had to play some big minutes with all the Portland injuries. He's a 22 right now. I've got him estimated around 32 minutes a night. That puts him at about 38.5. I'd say he's in play, but there is a better 22 in my opinion. A couple of them, actually. Grayson Allen in Phoenix is one of them. He gets about 34 minutes a night. He just gets regular minutes with the starters. Right under 40 for a top end, so 22 really nice for him. He can pop for big ones. Jordan Clarkson in Utah. He's a 22. I've got him around 30 minutes. That puts him a little over 40 for a top end, and Utah's got 3 games, so Clarkson would be my choice at 22. 23, you've got Paul Reed. 31 in the last two of the last 3, and then just 22 last time. Put him right in that 28 range. I think that's where you estimate him. That gives him a high-end upside of over 40, so for 23, pretty good. Malik Monk's been incredible lately. Minutes are on the rise, over 45. 2 games for Sacramento, and at 24, I think you certainly get him in there if you have one. Jabari Smith, playing big minutes. Houston front court banged up. 46.3 for a high-end estimate at 25. That's really playable. Denny Avdija in Washington, since they shipped Daniel Gafford out of town, has been playing 40 minutes a night over the last 3. That puts his top end just under 50, and at 26, he is in play. Drummond's kind of interesting. He played over 30 minutes 3 games ago, then over 30 minutes again 2 games ago, then last game back down to his normal 15 to 17 range. 26 L10, he can get you over 50 if he played in the 30-minute range because he's a really productive, 1.36 a minute. I've lowered his estimate down to 22 minutes. That puts him still over 40. He's still in play. If he can get back over 30 minutes, though, he'll be a great play. We'll see what they do with him this week. 2 games for the Bulls. Keegan Murray in Sacramento, 31 a night, gets him in the low 40s. Same with Jonas Valanciunas, both 28s. Precious Achiuwa continues to get huge minutes in New York while they wait for OG Anunoby and Julius Randle to get healthy. Hartenstein's been out. 29 L10. He's on the rise. 46 though. 46.5 top end, pretty good. If you want cheaper options, I would say Tyus Jones is a good one for you. I think he's around $4. 29 L10 in that same range, both with 2 games. Jaden Ivey at a 30, playing big minutes for Detroit right now. 46 for that top end and 2 games for Detroit. Let's look at some prices. So in this tier, Grayson Allen, Tyus Jones, JV, all pretty good values right now. If you want to take that chance on Drummond, you can. I think Avdija here is really good. $545, that's a nice price for him playing that many minutes. Get a little more expensive when you start to look at the Buddy Hields and Paul Reeds and Malik Monk. Running through the blue chips, Tyler Hero is a 31, and I think he's a great play this week with all the Miami injuries. I think he's going to get 38, maybe even 40 minutes. That puts him right around 50 for a top end. At 31, he's definitely in play. Jalen Duren in Detroit's been getting some more minutes. He's right in the mid-30s for minutes, which puts him right around 50 as well. 33 out 10. Tyrese Halliburton is going to make it really difficult to win anything this week because he's probably going to be all over the contenders. He's going to be all over the champions. His high end is 60. His minutes are starting to go back up, and he's starting to look more like he did early in the year, and that's bad news for anybody who doesn't have a Tyrese Halliburton. This guy included. If I was going to buy a star, it would be a Halliburton right now, if that tells you anything. 34 is just incredibly low for a guy that can obviously score 70, 80 points. We'll see if he can get back in the 30s in minutes, but even in the high 20s, he's going to be in play for everybody who owns one. Jeremy Grant has been great with all the injuries in Portland, been playing huge minutes, 43 estimated minutes. Brogdon's now out. Simon's missed last game with an ankle sprain. We don't know who's playing from night to night in Portland, but if Grant is in there, and he has been the only healthy one the last couple of games, I'd say he can get you in the mid-50s, and at 34, that's really good. Cade Cunningham and Franz Wagner, both 35s, both right around 50 for an upside. Wagner's been playing really well lately. See what happens with those two, but both good plays. Bam Adebayo, I gave some more minutes to just based on the injuries and Butler being out. Probably takes on more of a load offensively. And I've got him and Kyle Kuzma both in those low 50s range. I think both of them are good plays this week. Really like Markkanen here. 37 is a good number for him. 56.6, so a big difference in 3 games for Utah. So if you have a Markkanen, go ahead and get him in. Rudy Gobert at 38 is your best 38. Right around 51. 3 games, though, for the Wolves, so a couple chances for him. DiVincenzo, if you got a DiVincenzo, you know you're not taking him out of the lineup. He's been amazing. 58 for a top end, been getting around 40 minutes. I think that continues for now and capable of giving you a huge game. You've seen it a bunch of times lately. Anthony Edwards at 41 seems low. 58 for a top end for him. He's certainly capable of that in 3 games for the Wolves. Good play this week. Vooch at 42. 42 estimated minutes. Wow. I mean, maybe this doesn't continue, but with the All-Star break coming up and them getting some rest, he's been playing his starters huge minutes, so we'll see if it continues. Got a couple guys who are game time decisions, so Vooch may take on more of a load. I think he's certainly capable of getting in the 50s. High 50s even in 2 games. Trae Young's been a great play for multiple weeks now. He's still projected over 60 for a high end, 2 games for the Hawks. 47, you've got Sabonis. He's been out of his mind, triple-double every night. 62 for a top end for him. 2 games for the Kings. And LeBron at 48. It's your best 48 of this group. 63 for a top end, 2 games for the Lakers. But actually, all these guys are pretty good plays. Tatum, Durant, Booker. And then for your higher end guys, so for your champion lineups, Luka becomes your highest rated guy, under 80 now, but still close enough to 80 where I don't think you can take him out. 71 for an L10 average. If you have an MVP spot to stick him in, stick him in there. Jokic is actually down to 59, projected over 70. He's obviously a good play. Anthony Davis, obviously always in play. 2 games for the Lakers. So take your pick of the high-end guys if you own those. Try to get it out a little earlier so you have something to look at before you make your lineups tonight. Appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. Take care. Have a good week, and we'll see you after the All-Star break.